And we're live. It is Friday. It is the Ides of August, the year of our Lord 2025. It is 8:01 a.m. And I have a funny story for you. It is a story that relates to my special military operation that's going to take place today at the Russian embassy at noon in observance of, or at 12:10, in observance of the Alaska Summit, the unspeakable Alaska Summit. And it's just a story about Ukrainian networks. One of the very first people who started coming to special military operations, we didn't know each other, but she was a former VOA Russian and Ukrainian language journalist, and she did some work around think tanks, and she was a very compelling person, and we came to be friends, is the estimable Luda Huntsman, who has done the voicing of some of the essays that I have projected. We've worked together on a number of projects, and we've become very good friends. And one day I was planning to do a projection of Nikita Titoff's work on the embassy, and Nikita Titoff does not speak good enough English to do a live presence, and I thought it would be fun to have him there on a Zoom from Kiev, talking about the work we were projecting. But Nikita is not an English speaker, and my Ukrainian is not adequate, and in any event, live streaming in Ukrainian when you're talking to English speakers is not the wisest thing in the world to do. And so I needed a live translator, and for the first time, Luda couldn't do it. And she had something else going on that day. I'm not sure what, I don't remember what the issue was. And so Luda recommended a young Ukrainian woman in London, which is convenient because it's halfway, or closer to Ukraine time than to DC time, but it worked actually because Nikita was going to have to be up at an obscene hour of the morning there, and so it was late night in London, and it was 9:00 p.m. here. And Luda recommended a young woman named Yulia. And Yulia, whom I've never met to this day, was gamely stepped up and did live translation on a sketchy Zoom meeting between Kiev and the street in Washington, and it was awesome. And we've stayed in touch ever since. She's a aspiring journalist and translator, and all kinds of fun things. And one day she texted me that she was very excited because her friend Marichka was moving to Washington, and she was very excited for us to meet because Marichka was a big activist, and that is how I met Marichka, who has been on the show, Maria Hliten, who has done a lot of actions with me, and who I've become very close to. And so here is the cool thing that is happening today. We are doing, because all of my lasers are in federal custody right now, we are doing a chalk action at the embassy. It will be live streamed on Substack. Filming will happen by the great Steve Huntsman, my good friend, who is husband of Luda Huntsman. Live translation from London will be done by Yulia Yachmanova. And of course, Marichka will be helping promote things locally. And so all of these networks of Ukrainians, many of whom have never met each other. When Yulia told me that Marichka was her good friend, what she meant was that they'd never met, but they knew each other on the internet. And one of the great joys of the last several years has been tapping into this network of Ukrainians, most of them quite young, but not all. Some of them are, adults like me. And some of them are, and they are all, some of them are in Ukraine, some of them are scattered around the world. But when you tap into this network, it is a remarkable network of trust and camaraderie and lovely, lovely, lovely people. And so I was sitting here this morning setting up the Substack live stream for this, and I was thinking, wow. And I was letting Marichka know that, hey, there'll be live translation in Ukrainian. And I was thinking, not just will there be live translation into Ukrainian, but there will be live translation in Ukrainian by the woman who introduced me to you. And by the way, not only is that, and I know that woman through the Huntsman family who first recommended her, and they're going to be there. And I just thought this was about the coolest thing that could happen on a Friday morning. It's going to be super hot out there. I'm going to be sweating like a pig. There is literally 100 pounds of chalk in my living room. And I'm going to have some fun. For those of you who are expressing concern, I expect only pleasant interactions with law enforcement for two reasons. One is that, first of all, the jurisdiction over the embassy area goes to the Secret Service, not to the Park Police, and the Secret Service is hands down the best law enforcement operation to deal with in Washington, D.C. If any of them show up beforehand, and one of the reasons I'm live streaming it rather than simply having it filmed is because I want people to see all of this. If any of them show up beforehand, I will give them, if they want, a walkthrough of exactly what I'm going to do, and they will give me whatever guideposts they may have about how rules have changed or whatever. Sometimes there are little changes in the way in their operating assumptions, but we will have a very pleasant pre-operation interaction if they want to. If there's nobody there when I show up, I'll just start doing it. But at some point, I'm sure Secret Service will show up because the Russians will call it in as some kind of terrible threat. And I will expect to have a pleasant interaction with the Secret Service. The second reason I expect only pleasant interactions with law enforcement today is that there is no ambiguity that drawing on the sidewalk is legal. And we're going to show we're not going to draw on the Russian compound. We're not going to do any, but this is not like projections, which sometimes, there are time, place, and manner restrictions that can affect your right to express yourself with a laser. Drawing on the sidewalk, as every kindergarten class knows, is a legal activity. Admittedly, my application of my rights as a kindergarten member to do it with 100 pounds of chalk is eccentric, but I don't think there are any time, place, or manner restrictions that limit the amount of chalk that you can draw on the sidewalk with. So that is my plan. That is going to be happening at 12:10. It will be live streamed on Substack. For those of you who are seeing Dogshirt TV later in the day after this has already taken place, the full video should be there on my Substack. And uh, Anybody who wants to join live can join live on the live stream or can just show up, you know, at the gates of hell. You can be a bystander, you can be a participant if you want to help me create the largest chalk Ukrainian flag ever created uh, on Wisconsin Avenue. Um, Come join me. There'll be lots of chalk to pour. Bring a broom. Brooms are the key tool in this operation. Hello, Ev Gamond.
Good morning, Benjamin.
I was just talking about my plans for the day, which include 100 pounds of chalk. Um, and And before we get to greeting Evgamon properly or talking to Hermione Granger, it is important to go through the motions. The sun is shining. The birds are chirping. It's going to be a hot one here, folks. Keep cool, keep hydrated, pour water over your head while you're chalking. But it is going to be a great fucking day. And
You're watching Dog Shirt TV.
you are watching Dogshirt TV, and it is a fucking revolution in morning television. And one of the revolutionary features is that sometimes I send out a message to the DSTV,
Cry for
uh,
help.
cry for help right before the show that says, "Help, it looks like I'm all alone." And somebody always comes to my rescue. And in this case, it is the very estimable Ev Gamon. And another one of the revolutionary features, which, as I say, there are many, is that sometimes, even before I am through the morning monologue, I have not one but two members of the Greek chorus on the screen. We're going to go to them in the order in which they magicked themselves onto the screen. John Hawkinson, good to see you this morning.
Good morning, Ben. How are you?
I am filled with a cheerful, incandescent rage at the at the activities of the federal government, and yet I am cheerful about it. I am uh, my city is under federal occupation. The the president is on his way to Alaska to sell out the country. Fred, I'm going to keep you muted while you're not speaking, and John too, because I've got a hiss coming through your lines. Just don't forget to unmute yourself. And the list of outrages grows longer, and yet I am I am cheerful and happy because it is a divine commandment to be happy in the face of people who want to make you miserable. Um, your thoughts this morning?
Well, three points. One, I appreciate your use of the word incandescence, which makes me feel something about the peculiar lighting in this particular room. Um,
Yes, incandescent is an underused word to refer to emotional states.
I mean, sadly, it's not truly an incandescent lamp, but we'll go with it. I did want to raise two items with you, one long-standing and one short. The short is just that if you can somehow manage to have your soundtrack playing while you're brooming, I think that that's just next level of today's operation. And I
You
realize
mean the sidewalk chalk rap song?
that's correct.
So that is a very interesting idea, and I honestly don't know how I would do that without bringing a generator and a speaker, which I could do.
An
But I'm,
old-fashioned boombox.
it's a really good idea. But here's the problem. I'm going to be driving the live stream off my phone. You don't want the phone doing too much other work, so you'd need to have a different device. But maybe
I
that's,
do believe you've misunderstood the word old-fashioned. This
I
idea,
understand. I understand, but I don't have like an old boombox. Um,
well,
so I think you would need to but I'm gonna work on it. You're right. It needs to be playing in the background, preferably loudly enough to drive the Russians as insane as that song drives me. Um, it's an excellent point, John. I will work on it. I've got 4 hours before operation time, and you
well,
know,
I understand it may be logistically impractical, but I'll just point out you've got other volunteers, and the chat did suggest you could use your built-in ghetto blaster in your automobile. So that's an option.
yeah, but again, doing that without um I don't want to really show my license plate, there's some reasons not to be flamboyant with the car.
Uh,
Um
Fair enough. And the long
but
stand. Oh, yeah.
look, I'm committed. I'm going to get it done. It's a
I
good
just wanted to
idea.
plant the seed.
Yeah, yeah. No, I hear you, man.
But to address the long-standing concern, I just want to make sure you understand the Roman calendar. Because contrary to popular belief, and this has come up multiple times in the history of the show, I fear, the 15th of every month is not an Ides.
I know.
Okay. And
But
August,
no, no. I know it is an affectation that I use, sort of the way people say happy birthday when it's not somebody's birthday, but when something nice happens to them, you know, y- you know, a pot of gold falls out of the sky on Fred's head and somebody says happy birthday. It is not the implication that it is actually his birthday.
well, I hear you, and I don't want to critique your affectation too much, but normally speaking, in the hollow months, the Ides fall on the 13th. Now, August is tricky. Oh my, Fred. Yes.
I don't know who did that or how, but that was
I think
awesome.
that's a Windows feature. I'm a little unclear on it. I think Ev has some experience with this too. Um, it, more reasons not to use Windows, but uh, you know, I think there's some confusion about August, which is named after Caesar Augustus, and I think had 30 days, making it a hollow month. Or sorry, is it making it a hollow month in Roman times, but now it's a full month. So I think the argument could be made that maybe the Ides of August are, but I just want to be clear that formally speaking, the Ides only fall on the 15th on, oh gosh, what is it? March, May, October, and Quintilis, whatever month that was.
I
So,
understand. Look, I am going to stick with the 15th of the month for introduction purposes to this show. Counts as an Ides because it's just logistically too difficult for me to remember which month we're in and
look, if
what
you can't remember
Ides
which
are
months
for
are
that month.
hollow,
I mean, it's just you're look, it's one thing if I had producers who were writing the introductions for me, but this is a goddamn revolution in morning television, John, and I'm doing this really all myself with Ev and with the other co-hosts. And we got to be have license to make up some facts along the way. They're not going to be like profound misinformation facts, but I just can't like keep track of which months have Ides on which days. So you know, sorry.
no, that's fair, and I understand.
Overruled.
And I understand, and I'm not going to seek reconsideration per se. However, I am going to warn you that it might be the case that on those months where the Ides fall on the 13th, I might just show up on the 13th to remind you that it's the Ides, in my view, and then we'll see if you can remember 2 days later.
Excellent. That is a fair compromise. You are a great American and a fabulous pedant, and I am in awe of, and more importantly, E.J. Wittes, who is even more pedantic than I am, will really appreciate the commitment to the bit here. He is also, of course, a calendar expert and a Roman history expert, and so the commitment to the proper use of Ides and the willingness to interrupt a show over it on a serial basis will be something that he will appreciate. Fred, this is your, if I am not mistaken, this is your first ever appearance on screen. Are you actually in Paris on that incredible porch, or is this a background?
It's a background, Ben. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you just fine.
Hey, I've actually been on screen with you once before during the French Village podcast. You kindly invited me on the show all those years ago. I think
I
at the time you
remember
referred
that.
to me as the Forger.
Correct. I remember that well. Welcome to Dog Shirt TV. Let Fred be a model to you all that we do not bite when you're your first time on Dog Shirt TV. We welcome you. We're nice. And what's on your mind today?
I'm glad to hear that you're nice because this legal analysis is not going to be, sort of Jack Goldsmith level. It's going to be somewhere between Jack Goldsmith and my cousin Vinny. But what I'd like to share, Ben, is what I've learned about the gift of the Statue of Liberty to America compared to what Trump is doing with the Qatari jet transaction.
Oh, so
Um,
this is actually a subject that I have also done a little bit of research about, and I was thinking about writing a column about it, and never actually bothered to do it. But I'm delighted to have you on the show because uh, there are some important legal differences, not the least of which is that the president did not take the Statue of Liberty with him when he left office.
Real
Yeah, Fred, walk us through when the United States accepted the Statue of Liberty. Um, I have really three questions for you to set up your little presentation on this subject. Number one, did the President of the United States demand the gift of the Statue of Liberty from
uh,
the French Republic? That's number one. I'm just going to lay these questions out. Number two, um, was Congress meaningfully consulted on the acceptance of the gift? And number three, was the Statue of Liberty, did it cost the American taxpayer bill, billions of dollars to retrofit it to the president's satisfaction? Um, uh, and then I suppose number four, uh, did he take it with him afterwards and kind of use it to as his sort of personal lounge?
Ben, those are excellent questions. I've been thinking about the same questions and some others, which I'll share with you. And just on the question of the cost to taxpayers, I mean, I suppose it's possible that like Fox News is going to organize a campaign of public donations of American school children to send in their pennies to pay for the $1 billion for the retrofit of Trump's aircraft, the way that Joseph Pulitzer and the World newspaper organized a fundraising drive to pay for the installation of the Statue of Liberty. But until that happens, until that happens, that's one very big contrast in the fact pattern. And sort of going forward from there, sort of in general, in a nutshell, what Trump is doing with the Qatari jet is pretty much exactly the opposite of what happened with the Statue of Liberty. And I can
No
talk about
shit.
the deep.
No. So talk about the contrasts.
Yeah, yeah,
What
yeah.
what does it look like when the president does it? The accepts a massive gift from a foreign country in a fashion that is, say, patriotic rather than, you know, uh, I don't know, rent seeking or corrupt.
Right, patriotic and legal. So what I've done is I put together a legal chronology of the legislative history of the acceptance of the Statue of Liberty, by the gift of the Statue of Liberty. So I'm just going to sketch that out to you
Yeah, and just to be
briefly.
clear, did I know you were showing up on the show this morning?
Negative.
Did Ev know you were showing up on the show this morning?
No.
So is this an example of a piece of research done impromptu by a member of the Greek chorus, and one of the just cool things that happens between 8 and 9 in the morning when a member of the Greek chorus researches a genuinely interesting topic that is relevant to the news and comes on to report about it?
100%.
All right, go forth, and the floor is yours. Give us a presentation, and if you feel inclined to do a little compare and contrast with current events, feel free, but don't feel obligated. If you just
Yeah,
want
I
I
did.
may interrupt you now and then to contrast things with the present day, but feel free to take such time, as they say in Congress, as the gentleman may require.
Thank you, sir. Most of my contrast comes at the end, and I really focused in the limited time I had in drilling down on the Statue of Liberty legislative process. But we'll have some opportunities for contrast. So on February 1st, 1877, a committee of private American citizens, sent a letter to President Grant. Now, who is this committee of citizens? I mean, I could talk for an hour about who these folks are. It's incredibly interesting. It was an ad hoc committee, primarily members of the Union League Club in New York City, founded in 1863. If you want to have some fun and learn about 19th century national and New York politics, just Google the Union League Club, and the individuals who are the signatories of this letter to President Grant. So just briefly, just touching on the background here, President Grant at the time was a member of the Union League Club, and he was, as noted by the club, they held President Grant in high esteem and elected him as an honorary member on April 14th, 1864. And just again, as another footnote, there is a connection between the Statue of Liberty and Grant's tomb, which I uncovered, sort of doing this research, as well as with the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And it all is related to this Union League Club in New York. They grew out of the anti-slavery movement of the sort of early to mid 19th century. And also they were strongly aligned with the anti-corruption movement in New York, opposing Boss Tweed and the Tammany Hall machine. And a member a member of the committee, though not at the time a member of the club. In fact, his first application to join the club at the time was denied because a family member of his was a well-known a Confederate sympathizer, but a member of the committee was 19-year-old Teddy Roosevelt, um, and who, of course, later became an American president. 15 U.S. presidents have been members of the club. There's also a strong artistic tradition in the club membership, which again kind of relates to what they're doing with these public monuments. And in fact, some 19th century artists contributed paintings to the club in lieu of contributing dues to the club. So some notable members were at the time of this took place. They sent this letter to President Grant. William Cullen Bryant, who is a poet and journalist, a great painter with the fantastic name of Worthington Whitridge, sort of New York business people with their portraits, these beautiful, John Singer Sargent style portraits hanging in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. John Jay, the grandson of the Supreme Court justice who who was a founder of the Republican Party in 1854 and had defended fugitive slaves in New York. So just, when you're thinking about this club, anti-corruption.
New York luminary, anti-corruption, anti-slavery, pro-public art.
Exactly. So they send this letter to President Grant, and I'm going to paraphrase the letter. I read all the primary sources here. The letter said, basically, to paraphrase it, hey, the French people want to commemorate the 100th anniversary of American independence by placing a 100-foot tall statue of liberty enlightening the world in New York Harbor. It says the French people, private citizens, are paying for it. The purpose of it is to honor the past alliance between the U.S. and France.
When you say French citizens, private people, do you mean that there was not an emir involved in the transaction?
There totally was not an emir involved, man. I mean, this was like, it was sort of an elite.
Nobody with the title Sultan?
Correct.
Okay,
I mean,
checking,
to be fair, there was a French committee and an American committee, sort of to be fair. I mean, if you wanted to cast these leadership committees in the worst possible light, you might call them oligarchs. I mean, they're sort of titans of culture and industry and
right. But were any of them a gas station with sovereignty?
No, absolutely.
That's sort of the way I think of Qatar is,
right.
Like a kind of, roadside petrol station with, with sovereignty over like 8 square meters and, a few dozen people.
Exactly. I mean, it couldn't be more different. And this document, again, just in terms of another contrast to what's happening with the Qatar jet, all of this is a writing. There are writings, public writings, to which one can refer to determine all of the terms of the transfer, of which there are some significant ones that differ from the Qatar jet again.
Serious question though. This would have taken place, if my French history serves, during the early period of the post Napoleon III Republic. And so it's a period in which, France is kind of vacillating between Bourbon rule, Napoleonic rule, and Republican rule. This is a republic that then lasts through into World War II when it is sort of overthrown. But it's not the least corrupt or most stable government ever. Any indication that the government was secretly behind this citizens committee, or was it really a group of fraternal French citizens who were just kind of interested in celebrating American liberty?
The evidence that I have on that question is the statements of the citizens themselves, which are documented in the official program that was distributed to the public on Inauguration Day. And there's a lot of narrative in there from the people who are involved in the French committee, going back to sort of the late 1850s when it started to get off the ground. So my best answer is that there's a lot of evidence that there was no sort of the statements of the people who were driving it on the French side are that it was really just kind of a grassroots fraternal effort, good faith, public spirited effort. And I just haven't had time to really dive into that the French side all that much, but I know the evidence is there. And my first, sort of,
All right. No need to
yeah,
explain further, but best we know at this point, it was good-spirited French business people, citizen types.
correct.
Okay.
So this letter says to President Grant, it says, "Hey, President Grant, all we have to do on the American side is to assign a site in New York Harbor, which belongs to the federal government, where we can locate this statue, and hold an inauguration ceremony at the time that it's built. So there's some specific performance there, which is, requested. It says, the American committee says to President Grant, we, the committee, are going to raise public money to pay for the pedestal. And we have been told that you support this project." So, there's a little sort of like friends talking to friends. They've already, through their social network, they know that he is in favor of this. "We've been told that you support this project, and we ask you to present our request about the project to the American Congress. And we ask the Senate and the House to pass a law to authorize the proper part of the government to allocate a site in New York Harbor, to provide for future maintenance of the beacon." It was sort of, the original idea was it'd be sort of a lighthouse in the harbor, "and to provide for the perpetual care and preservation of the statue, to maintain it."
So there was
So
no, just to be clear, there was no hidden secret budget where Congress pretended it was a nuclear weapons thing, uh, um, and it was done in the open, and the acquisition was specifically authorized by Congress.
that is absolutely correct. And in my summary of the contrast, just to give you one sentence on the contrast, I can say, my headline was, "The gift of the Statue of Liberty was statutorily authorized. It was specifically deeded in a writing to the American people. It was designated for a specific use. It was transacted openly, and the transaction was well documented in writings. There's a public paper trail showing a straight line of law from the statue's idea stage right straight through to the inauguration ceremony 10 years later." And in contrast, everything about the Qatar jet transaction is murky. The legality is questionable. The benefactors and beneficiaries are unknown. It was transacted in secret, and there's zero public documentation. So, I mean, let me get back to the narrative here to just bolster those points.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
so on February February 1st, the American committee sends this letter to President Grant. On February 9th, 1877, President Grant sends the letter to Congress with a cover note. And Grant's note says, I'm transmitting to Congress a request I got. I'm paraphrasing. I'm transmitting to Congress a request I got from a committee of New York citizens who are cooperating with a group of French citizens to place the giant statue in New York Harbor of Liberty enlightening the world. I hope you will consider the proposal favorably. And so then on February 13th, 4 days later, the Speaker of the House reads Grant's cover note and the letter to Congress. And there's some discussion in Congress about which committee to refer this. They called it a memorial, which is like the 19th century term for a petition or request. Which committee to refer this request to, whether it should go to the Foreign Affairs Committee or the Military Affairs Committee. They send it to the Foreign Affairs Committee. And so that's really the only debate that, occurs at that time. Then next event is that on February 22nd, the House passes a joint resolution, H.R. 196, which is, after this has been referred out of committee, the Foreign Affairs Committee. This is a joint resolution. Now, in my comprehension of the law of legislative law, a simple resolution has no force of law. A concurrent resolution has no force of law, but a joint resolution like this has a force of law. And you'll see in the history that it's passed by the Senate and that it is also signed by the president. So this is a law. Am I correct in that conclusion?
Well, so I'm going to mute you again. A joint resolution that has an operative provision that is passed by both houses and signed by signed by the president, has the force of law. If it is merely a resolution expressing the sense of the Congress that blah blah blah, it doesn't need, it may not have a provision that has the force of law. But that's just a law at that point.
Right. Okay. Correct. And I'm gonna quickly read you the joint resolution, which meets the requirements that you just described. It says the president. I'll leave out a few key words. I'm going to quickly paraphrase it here. The president has communicated to Congress the information that the citizens of the French Republic propose to commemorate the 100th anniversary of our independence by erecting at their own cost a colossal bronze statue of liberty enlightening the world on a pedestal to be built by private subscription on one of the islands belonging to the United States in New York Harbor. It is proper to provide for the care and preservation of this grand monument of art and the abiding friendship of our ancient ally. Therefore, be it resolved by the Senate and the House that the President of the United States is hereby authorized and directed. I mean, this is the way government used to work. I was like weeping just reading this compared to, what America has become. The president is hereby authorized and directed to accept the colossal statue of liberty enlightening the world when presented by citizens of the French Republic, and to designate and set apart for its construction a site upon Governor's or Bedloe's Island in New York Harbor. And when it's completed, there shall be an inauguration ceremony. And he's also authorized to the president's also authorized to cause suitable regulations to be made for its future maintenance as a beacon and for its permanent care and preservation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, well, actually, I mean, there's no more substantive info. That there's just a little bit more sort of flowery language. So then on February 22nd, the Senate received the resolution from the House. The Senate passed the joint resolution on February 27. It was passed unanimously. Really, the only comment about it in the congressional record is that is that Senator Cameron of Pennsylvania says, as this is a matter entirely of courtesy to a number of patriotic Frenchmen and citizens of this country, I ask the Senate to act upon it at once. It costs no money. And then it passed unanimously.
Authorized by Congress and costing no money.
Right, correct.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, look at that. Amazing what they could do in the 19th century. The House Speaker signed the joint resolution on February 28th. And then the Senate President Pro Tem signed the joint resolution on March 1st. It was signed into law by President Grant on Saturday, March 3rd, 1877, his last day in office.
And again, didn't take it with him when he left office, right?
He did not. I mean, sometimes
second.
I was reading this and I was thinking, is there any way Trump could try to move it to Mar-a-Lago? But I think the law is pretty clear. So then what occurs? You fast forward from 1877 to 1884. So during this time, the French are raising the money to pay for it, and they're constructing the statue in France. In 1884, I believe it's in Paris, although I can't be sure, at the foundry where the statue was fabricated, there is a ceremony attended by the highest-ranking U.S. diplomat, a guy named Mr. Morton, and he is the minister to France. At that time, we did not have ambassadors, which is the highest rank for U.S. Foreign Service was ministers, which is an interesting topic to study, which I won't go into right now. But this is so there's this writing, which is called, which Minister Morton, the U.S. representative, reports back to Congress, along with lots of other information. It's this beautiful sort of illuminated manuscript, and it says, Mr. Morton, in the name of his compatriots, thanks the Franco-American Union, the French Committee, for this testimony of sympathy from the French people. He declares that in virtue of powers conferred upon him by the President of the United States and the American Committee, he accepts the statue and that it shall be erected in conformity with the vote of Congress of 22nd of February, 1877 in the harbor of New York. And so this reference to the vote of Congress that authorized this whole thing is a constant feature of every public discussion and every written document in the historical record of any significance related to this transaction. So then 2 years later, there's an inauguration ceremony on October 28th, 1886. And I read the full text of all the speeches. They're really cool, really interesting. And so in those speeches and in the printed inauguration program, the program includes a reprint of the joint resolution of Congress, the law authorizing the transfer. The commemorative book, which I've also read, issued afterwards by the American Committee, also reprints the joint resolution. And in the speech, in his speech on the day, there's some cool speeches, some good, some horrible, but the chairman of the American Committee says in his speech, upon the recommendation of the President of the United States, Congress authorized and directed the President to accept this colossal statue. Today I declare blah, 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 the friendship, that this work of the two republics is completed and surrendered to the care and keeping of the government and the people of the United States. It's not going to Mar-a-Lago. It's sitting in New York Harbor.
And was it given with any condition that the president get to take it at the end of his term? Did the French government slap any such condition on it?
They did not. President Cleveland, in his speech, said that the people of the United States accept with gratitude from their French brothers the grand and completed work of art we here inaugurate. That was really that captures his sentiment pretty well.
All right.
So
Fred, we're gonna have to wrap this up because we only have 8 minutes left in the show, and there are some other things I need to get to.
yeah,
But here is what I would like to do. First of all, if you want to write up all of this legislative history, I think it would be an excellent either guest post on Dog Shirt Daily or Lawfare post, depending on how you did it. And so I would invite you to write up the legislative history in full as you've just described it. And we will figure out what to do with said history. I would say doing it in some amusement at or horror amusement at the current lay of the land would be well advised. The second thing is if you want to give a brief summary of your conclusions now, this is orally, that's a good time to do it, but we do have to keep this brief because we are kind of out of time.
I already gave my summary, Ben. Really, the Statue of Liberty process is just the complete opposite in every way of what's happening with the Qatari jet.
You are a great American for doing this research. Thank you for this presentation. Hugely interesting. It fleshes out in enormous detail my own sense of what had happened. You're a great American, and thanks for surprising us with this morning. Ev Gaman, slumlord extraordinaire in Canada. What is on your mind this morning?
Well, I'm gonna throw an idea that is not fully fleshed out, that I'll have trouble explaining, but that arises from Fred's presentation, but also that I've been pondering about for a while. But Fred has talked about how, like, a paper trail and authorization and a very bureaucratic way of seeing government, and very rational society that is extremely rationalized. And we tend to see this as something great. But because we're looking back and we're like, oh, that was much better then. But I want to raise the hypothesis that maybe we're at the point we are now because of it, because everything has been so rationalized, so removed, everything being so removed of any personal connections, that we've longed for more connections, and that's how like the pendulum has swung back and went back to like patrilineal society. But if we had been able to have more human relationships add more human relationships into the bureaucracy, and not having it being so cold. And I guess that in the 19th century, it was a good balance. But fast forward 100 years later, maybe we had gone too far in the coldness of relationship and authorized by a sub person. So I'm throwing this idea in the conversation and asking what you're thinking about it.
It's a really interesting question, and I don't know that I know the answer to it. So, um, yesterday I was at a conference on liberalism, at which I spoke, and I was one of the points that one of the speakers made is that the only way to stop populism is with narratives as compelling as the populist narratives. And, that's hard because if you believe in processes and bureaucracy and, these things are kind of the enemy of good narrative. Unless you do it the way Fred just did it, which is to say, hey, there's something inspiring about the people of France, admittedly the rich people of France, getting together and wanting to build a statue. And there's something inspiring about the people of New York, admittedly the rich people of New York, wanting to build a giant mount in the middle of the harbor for that statue. And there's something inspiring about them petitioning the Congress of the United States and the president to say, hey, can we make this an official thing and have an island to put it on? Um, and the president recommending this to Congress and Congress passing a law and then it becoming a matter of official policy, that's actually an inspiring story. And
Yeah,
by the
but
way, it's an inspiring story to have that thing sitting there for the next 150 years being a symbol of America, and that it
yeah, but we're joking
generated.
about the jet. But do you think it would have been possible in 2020, well, 2015 to have the Statue of Liberty gifted in the same fashion as it was back then? Or we have, like, it would have been too bureaucratized to actually happen?
Well, I think we are out of the democratic habit of having things done that way. And whether that's a creature of bureaucratization or a creature of specialization, that we think of international relations as this thing that the State Department does, not this thing that fraternal organizations do. But and
Which is
also,
core principle of bureaucracy, though. So in
uh,
it falls into
that's
bureaucracy.
why I'm not disagreeing with your point. I do think when you look back and you say, um, is this type of civic engagement, people are observing that this is a white men thing, but let me give you an example that isn't a white man thing. There is a statue, a commemorative statue, a memorial statue of Lincoln in Washington that also came up at this liberalism conference because Frederick Douglass spoke um, at its unveiling. Um, that was built and funded by freedmen. And the interesting thing is how unsparingly critical Frederick Douglass was of Lincoln and of aspects of Lincoln in his speech unveiling this, right? And so I don't think this is purely an out of, like, this idea that people get involved in the way of commissioning public monumental art is a purely bureaucratized thing. But I do think your point has a lot of merit that if the people of France wanted to give a gift to the people of the United States right now, it would be thought of as something that the French administration would work out with the American administration, not something that people would do. And I do think, like, thinking about it that way, bureaucratizing it that way, professionalizing it that way, does have a way of creating the expectation that we are not involved in those sort of things. And that opens a lot of doors to populism in a very destructive way. And so I would say you're right about Fred's presentation, but that is an unfortunate habit that we've gotten out of. And if you want to have narratives that are resistant to authoritarian populism, that learning the stories behind things like the Statue of Liberty and actually taking them seriously is not a crazy place to start. Okay, we are running over, and I'm committed to never letting that happen. Thank you to Fred. Thank you to Ev for rushing to my rescue, which turned out to be unnecessary because Fred did it all by himself. But it's always lovely to see your face, Ev, and hear your voice. We are going to be back on Monday. The Ann Applebaum, long delayed Ann Applebaum appearance will be happening sometime next week. Until then, keep the faith. Buy lots of sidewalk chalk,
Don't get arrested.
and don't get arrested. See you soon.
Bye bye.